Hello, my pack, my tribe. Welcome to Howling After Dark. So, I'm going to, because it's been such a long time since I've talked about it, this first part of tonight's episode, I'm going to reintroduce myself to the people out there that don't know my story. So, it all starts when I was 5 years old. Somebody, I'm not going to get into the whole thing because there's a lot of background in there I'd rather not get into, but somebody, when I was 5 years old, thought it would be cute to throw me into a pool. And I drowned in that pool. I actually died in that pool for 4 minutes. When paramedics probably saw at least 4 different psychologists, psychiatrists, whatever. And they all said the same thing, that I was perfectly sane. They couldn't explain the things that I saw, but I was not distributing any of the classical signs of like a mental illness. And as I got older, it didn't go me that the things I see are not things to be afraid of. And that helped a ton. And as I got older and these things weren't going away, I learned how to I guess you could say, like, put my blinders on. Like, I knew they were there, but I knew I had to function in society too. So, and I would have been thrown in a padded room probably if I was seen by my schoolmates or teachers or whoever talking to something or someone that they can't see. And so I learned how to hide it when I was out in society, which kind of a shame, but it's the way things were. See, Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and all those shows hadn't been out yet, so it hadn't become somewhat, socially acceptable. So I had to learn how to hide it, and I did for a very, very long time. By the time that Ghost Hunters, well, actually, to be more specific, everybody thinks that Ghost Hunters was the first show. It wasn't, actually. There was another show in Britain on the BBC that also had a late night time slot here in the States called Most Haunted that actually predates Ghost Hunters. But I digress. So before any of those shows, I had already had 15, 20 years of experience as a paranormal investigator and as a medicine man cleansing houses. And by the way, and this is not me toot my own horn, but it is a statement of fact, and it brings up other points which I'll get into later. I have done in my career over 500 house cleansings to remove evil, negative spirits, and out of those 500, I have had no calls to return. In other words, it succeeded the first time, did not have to go back. And that is quite the record. I'm now over 30 years in. I've been investigating since I was in my 20s. And I mean, I've been dealing with paranormal since I was 5. But I've only been a paranormal investigator since I was in my early 20s. And I'm now 54. So you can do the math. It's over 30 years. And I'm still improving. I'm still getting better. I'm always learning. Like, My take on it is if you're not learning, you're dead. And even that's not true because the dead still learn. Ghosts, what we call ghosts, the spirits of people, yeah, they learn things on their side. What most people think of as a poltergeist, 9 times out of 10, is a ghost that simply learned how to move stuff around. What we think of as like these evil shadow figures, 9 times out of 10 is simply a ghost, a normal everyday ghost that is not evil, that has learned how to show themselves as a shadow because it takes less energy than that of a full-bodied apparition. Orbs, from what I can tell, is the form that they transform into when they want to travel. We meet these things with and by we, I mean society in general, meets these things as something that it is now at the time. Um, and going into haunted locations and investigating was not something most places really allowed. So if you were gonna do it, you kind of had to do it on the down low. If you know what I mean, like if you were gonna, they didn't really have digital audio recorders at the time, so you had to do like these mini cassette recorders, and they didn't really have like infrared well, they did have infrared cameras. They were just military and not on the public market, but so you just had to deal with like cameras. And so early on, my ghost hunting kit consisted of a mini cassette recorder and a Polaroid. And what I would do is I was in San Diego. Sorry, frog in my throat. I was in San Diego, California at the time, and I would go on these tours and stuff of like historic locations. Like my favorite and probably the only one that even came close to allowing investigations at the time was the Whaley House in Old Town San Diego. And if you don't know about the Whaley House, let me clue you in. It is widely recognized as the most haunted house in America. And having been there several times, I agree. But they didn't really allow investigations at the time, so what I would do, and the other one was the three-masted bark ship called the Star of India, and I'll get into that one in a second. But what I would do when I would pay, to take the tour, and I used to take this tour so much, by the way, that they recognized me and started to know me by name. So I would, buy my ticket to go in and take the tour. And what I would do is I would always have my Polaroid. I had an old Polaroid camera, and I would have, as soon as I walked in, I would hit record on the mini cassette recorder, and it would be in my pocket so that they couldn't see it. And so I would take pictures and stuff, but I would just make it seem like I was taking pictures of the environment and not trying to take pictures of ghosts or whatever. And that's what I would do. And somewhere is a box of those Polaroids from those early investigations that I would love to get my hands on, but they're probably in storage somewhere with my mom. But I would often get figures in those Polaroids that weren't there. Um, to give you a little bit of the history of the Whaley House, uh, prior to the Whaley House's construction, on that very lot, right where the house was built, was the hanging tree for Old Town San Diego. It's where they would execute people. The most notable was an outlaw at the time by the name of Yankee Jim. And Yankee Jim is one of the spirits that actually haunts the house. And he haunts it in a very strange way, because it's not the typical of showing himself as an apparition or making noises. It is very, very different. So right where the tree was, we figure, is basically right in the middle of the stairs that go up to the second floor. And many, many, many people over the years have reported feeling something around their neck, right in the middle of the stairs. And more than one person has had some kind of mark on their neck after the experience that's been photographed and documented by various other people, including employees of the Whaley House itself. And we believe that that's right where the hanging tree was. And we believe that it's Yankee Jim doing these things. We don't know that because we haven't physically seen him do it, but it's the general consensus. And then you get up to the second floor. It's where the family's rooms were, and they're generally roped off so that you can't go in them, but they have the doors open so you can kind of observe the room. And I would take pictures inside the rooms, and I would catch stuff in there. In Thomas Whaley's room, him and his wife's room, I actually caught two mist figures. They were just like mists in different, positions in the room. I caught a shadow figure in Sarah Whaley's room. Sarah was I believe she was their middle daughter. Either the middle daughter or the youngest daughter, I forget which. But, she had a tragic tale because, the story is that she had married this gentleman, and I don't recall his name right off the top of my head. You could probably look it up. But she had married this gentleman, and almost immediately he had started seeing other women. And she found out about it and took her own life. And then, so she's like one of the main ones that people see. Thomas Whaley, the father, is another one that people see. His wife, I believe her name was Mary, but I could be mistaken. She's been seen a few times, but mostly experience that people have with her is on the first floor in the area that was the kitchen. They'll smell things like, they'll smell like fresh cornbread and stuff like that, biscuits, whatever, like as if she was cooking in the kitchen for the family. but it is like a relatively small place. I mean, it's 2 stories, but it's not a huge place. But for that time, it would basically have been a small mansion. So, and just historically speaking, it's just for the history alone, it's worth going to see if you're ever in Old Town San Diego. The other place, as I mentioned, that I would go to in those early days was the Star of India. Because the thing about the Star of India is you had options, right? Like you could pay and join a tour group and take the tour, which I did a couple times, and it was actually really interesting. All the history that you learn, and I'll get into some of that here in a second. But the best way I found to investigate is just to pay general admission and kind of keep away from other people as you wander through, documenting your evidence and kind of nonchalantly asking questions away from other people, so they're not looking at you like you're talking to yourself. Because remember, I've got the recorder in my pocket. And I did that for a little bit, and then ironically, I had done this solo investigation on the Star of India, and these people, it was 2 people, a man and a woman. Her name was Liz, and I believe his name was Phil. Anyways, they approached me, and and I'm sitting there thinking, uh-oh, I got caught. I'm in trouble. But no, I wasn't. They approached me about working with them because they were a team called the San Diego Ghost Hunters. Now, to be clear, this is not the same San Diego Ghost Hunters that exist today. This was a totally different team. And some of you that have seen the I believe it was a Ghost Adventures episode of the Whaley House, where they interviewed this lady from San Diego Ghost Hunters. That's not the same team. I just want to be really clear about that. So then I started investigating with them. I probably investigated with them for like a year and a half, 2 years. And then I had moved. And I kind of did solo stuff here and there after that. But for the most part, I wasn't investigating very much. I was just into other things. And I'd started doing stand-up comedy around that time. Yes, I'm a stand-up comic. Well, I will requalify that for the listeners. I was a stand-up comedian. I'm trying to be a stand-up comedian again. After a nearly 30-year hiatus. Because I was doing very good at the time, but the market was just flooded with talent, and I had gotten lost in the shuffle, but I had to pay bills, so I took a break. That break ended up turning into almost 30 years. And there you have it. Anyways, so yeah, I had taken a break from investigating pretty much, and then I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but fast forward time to what was it, like 2007? What year did I move to Ohio?
It was October 2009.
2009. And then it was like what, a year or two later, I ended up with Pace.
I think it was 2 years. Maybe 2 or 3 years. Like 2012, I think.
Yeah, so like 2012, I ended up with this team called Pace, and I was with them for
About a year, I think.
about a year, and we went our separate ways. And I'm not going to get into that whole thing. That's a topic for another episode. But I ended up founding my own team called Ghost Wolf Paranormal, and I started my podcast, Howling After Dark, and I started doing a YouTube web series called Forgotten Ghost Towns, and the rest, as they say, is history. And I'm doing pretty good. This podcast has a lot of listeners worldwide, gets a ton of downloads, and my web series had some traction for a good long time.
We need to do that again.
Yeah, we will be doing that again. We will be doing a new web series. And now my daughter is starting up Ghost Wolf International out of her home in Australia. And she started a TikTok series called Tales from the Hunt on TikTok, so feel free to check that out. It is awesome. She's only done one thing so far, but it's good. And yeah, so we're doing about as good as we can right now. We're getting ready to start investigating here. Oh, by the way, we left Ohio. We are now in New Mexico, and this place does not disappoint.
Not ever.
Our first night here, we had a train of lights. Must have been at least a dozen lights in a straight line fly right overhead, and these were not birds, people. It was way too high for that. There's no bird alive other than the osprey, which can do it for about a second. They can fly into the stratosphere.
Yeah, they just like passed by our atmosphere. You could see it.
It was like so high, but it could not have been birds. And then later that night, because when that happened, it was actually still daytime. The sun was still out.
It was twilight.
Yeah, and then like later that night, we were sleeping in tents because we'd just gotten to this property. We didn't have anything else. We were sleeping in tents, and we had this really bad windstorm that night. Or no, this was like a couple nights later, I think, because we had returned the U-Haul.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a couple nights later, or maybe a week later, something like that. But we were in our tents. I had my own tent with the dogs.
Well, we only had one dog.
Yeah, we had just Nacho. So it was just me and Nacho in one tent. And Nora and our cats were in the other tent. And this windstorm was so bad, it like ripped the rain fly off the top of my tent. So I'm looking through the top mesh of the tent, and I see these phoenix lights, the 3 lights in a triangle. 3 of them. And they start dancing around each other as this windstorm is going on. And then ever since then, we've had, other paranormal experiences too. I've had some experiences with the Skinwalker, which I actually tell the story about on my TikTok channel called GWP Tales from the Hunt. And wear headphones and turn it all the way up though, because the audio on it sucks, and I apologize for that. But if you want to hear that story, it's there. Anyways, I had some experiences with some skinwalkers. I've seen ghosts, heard ghosts. Almost every night for at least a couple months, I would hear footsteps behind our trailer, and there was nobody there. I've heard voices, all sorts of stuff going on here. And that's basically where we are now. We're trying to, right now we're trying to get transportation, because we don't have any. Ours broke down on the way here, and that's a whole other saga for a whole other time. But, we don't currently have transportation. We're saving up for some. Hopefully we're going to have some soon, and then we'll be able to go out and do stuff. But for now, the only investigating we do is, here. And even just here at home, we've gotten some pretty amazing shit.
Oh, yeah, fun.
During this last eclipse that we had, our friend Jason was here filming it, and as he was filming it, a shadow passed right in front of his camera. And then after it passed, it tripped his autofocus, so it went fuzzy.
He also has a train, too. The fact that they came back around.
Yeah, he actually took did he get video or just pictures?
We got video of it.
Yeah, he got video of the train of lights passing overhead, which happened 4 more times within a couple days. But anyways, I digress. So that's where we are right now, and that pretty much sums up the first part of tonight's show. Now, the second part is what we're looking forward to. Like I previously stated, Sarah is starting her own team in Australia, but she's also going to be running several other teams, hopefully, throughout Europe. So it will truly be an international venture. We've got our team starting up here in New Mexico, and if you've heard us before, our EVP specialist Becky is starting up her team back in Ohio. So that's at least 3 teams worldwide of Ghost Wolf Paranormal. We are kicking ass.
Rock on.
Both me and Sarah have started Tales from the Hunt on TikTok, which are short 10-minute videos about experiences and all that. So feel free to check that out. Hers is Tales from the Hunt. Mine is GWP Tales from the Hunt. We've got the international thing going. We've got some new projects that are going to be taking place soon. Here. That some of them are things that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I don't want to give any of it away yet, but it will be amazing. I will also be doing a Facebook live show Ghost Wolf Live, which was another podcast, is now evolving into a Facebook live show and possibly doing something with it on Instagram too. So we have that going. And we're actually going to be starting up again it'll be a whole new series, a whole new web series, but it's going to be the new version of Forgotten Ghost Towns. And we are actually going to be going to ghost towns. We'll be doing other things too, but we're going to focus on ghost towns. We're going to focus on for example, one of the first ones I want to do is called Sandia Pueblo. It's these old Pueblo ruins here in New Mexico, Pueblo Indians, and I've seen pictures and video of this site, and it's amazing. And I can only imagine the haunted activity there, because most of those have something going on. There's also another one that's I think a bit northwest of here that should be pretty amazing. There's quite a few towns here associated with Billy the Kid. A few of them are actually ghost towns. Some of them are just, historic. But people actually do live and work there. Like, there's a town called White Oaks. And White Oak was a town that was frequented by Billy the Kid that still exists today. People still live there, but much of the town is original to the 1800s. Same thing with Lincoln, Tularosa, and the list goes on and on. And each of those towns, while associated with Billy the Kid, their history isn't just Billy the Kid. There were other Wild West figures that were at these towns at one point or another. And then, on top of that, we've got all this other stuff in the region that we want to do too. For example, we have our friends at the other paranormal team, TIPA. I want to get with them and go on the hunt for Kenny Veach, who disappeared in the Nevada desert near Area 51. I want to get with possibly my friend, who I haven't talked to in such a long time, but I still think of him as a friend, Jason Olivo, who's in Texas, and maybe do something there. I've got another friend that wants me to come to the Corpus Christi area of Texas and do some stuff there. So, things are taking off already, and we're not even ready to travel yet, and we've already got all this stuff lined up, so we're doing good. But yeah, we've got some other things in the works that we're attempting to do. I have to redo the Ghost of Paranormal website, because the server that we were with before, Weebly.com, has decided to take down all of the stuff that I added. So, yeah, a lot of the uh, uh, photo evidence and EVPs and stuff that I had on that website are now gone. So I have to redo all of that in another location. And then, yeah, so, busy. In any case, my pack, my tribe, that is just about it. Until next time, peace out.